Happy Sabbath once more. And happy day. I'm happy to see you smiling. I'm also here with you today. There's a class that I missed the other time. I'm sorry for that. Shall we have a word of prayer? We thank you, our dear God. It is a blessed Sabbath that you've given to us to glorify your name in discussing your word. We are a special people that you've called us in this world, in the dispensation so that we live now, that we call upon sin by its name, and each and every one of us may be sanctified by the message that you've given unto us. As we partake of this day, let your name be glorified and open our heart that we might enter and receive everything that we discuss. In Jesus' name I do pray. Amen. Thanks a lot. I have just a small thing, something small to share. As I was going through the messages that have been on YouTube, I found a certain message done by Elder Emma. I found it so insightful to me. It gave me a lot of encouragement and an evidence that we are on the right track. Apart from the messages that we started with when I joined this movement, it's also an evidence to me that we are living the end time of this world. It's a repetition of everything, but I hope all of you, those who might have seen it or watched it, will help me go through it. If there's some place I didn't understand, we'll go on together. Amen? Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, one of the things that I've come to understand is we are living this sinful world, and the message that we have must be supported in all ways. One of the teachings that a control that I'm facing as a person right now is the issue of tithe. To me, I don't know about you. You know, in our Adventist church nowadays, you understand that the success of the church is dependent on what? Huh? Seventh-day Adventist church in all. The success as you go through Adventist church right now is on the giving. The giving. Camp meetings, week of prayers, the only thing that is there is giving. But according to the message that I've learned in this movement, whatever you support must be beneficial even unto you. Sindio? So giving tithe is to support what you know is right. Is that true? Because you have a message that must be supported, and this message must be beneficial to human race. So not only human race, but and to you as a person. So when I was going through this message, it gave me started with the vow. One of the vows, vow number 16, is talking about the tithe. It's talking about tithing. Is that true, Joy? Vow number 16 is talking about tithe giving. But I want just to go on another verse. I'm not going to discuss more about tithe, but just want to go to a different verse altogether to discuss that verse as Paul writes it to give to the end. 1 Corinthians 9, chapter 8. Let's all of us open that verse. Can somebody read? Verse 8. Yes. Just go on. Up to 14. Thank you very much. Paul is giving this message to the Corinthians while in Ephesians. So he says, say I these things as a man, or saith not the law, the same also. For it is written in the law of Moses, thou shalt not muzzle the mouth of an ox that treadeth out the corn. Doth God take care of oxen? What is to muzzle? Doro, what is to muzzle? Kufunga mdomo. Muzzle is just like a mask. Or why in the olden days I know people are muzzling the most of Nini. Is that true? Come. Even now, why are they doing that? They don't eat the plants. I've never come across, even me, why they do muzzling. That's why I don't know. Yes. Uh, mm. And Paul is saying, don't muzzle. What does Paul mean? Why? Why is Paul going? Kodo, muzzling is to prevent them from eating. Sindio. Then Paul is saying, it is Moses. Sindio. Moses is saying, don't muzzle. Why? Uh, mm. So, okay.
The microphone won't capture their voices. So when we afterwards, they will just hear in silence. You want to repeat what they say.
I repeat what they say. Okay, sir. So do you say? Go on.
I just want to give a little bit of context on what was happening those days. They were treating their farms using the oxen. And the farms were so big that the oxen did not have time to go and feed elsewhere. So the law was given so that as they treat the farm, the oxen also had time to eat. And if you compare the rate at which the oxen were eating and the size of the farm, it was negligible. So it could not cause any loss, any greater loss to the farmer. So it was very ideal that time. In comparison, maybe if we try to apply in our context, maybe if somebody is doing a certain work within a certain entity or a company, they are they're supposed to be benefiting from within that company. You cannot shut them from benefiting from whatever work or whatever environment where they work. So that's my understanding.
Well, thank you very much for giving us the original intent, how it used to happen. Okay, Joseph is saying that in the originality of the issue is in the olden days, the the shambas were so big that the oxen could be allowed to eat because the time they could to be allowed to eat was so small. So by them eating, they will not interfere with the output of the farm. Is that true what I'm saying? Thank you very much. I like the analogy you are giving in the original intent. So when we put it into Paul's time, Paul is also saying something here, the same book. Does, does God take care of the oxen? According from what Moses has done to muzzled, it proves that God also takes care of the oxen because the oxen, as from your analogy, they have to eat for them to do that work. Verse 10. Or saith he it altogether for our sakes. For our sakes, no doubt, it is written that he that ploweth should plow in hope, and that he that thresheth in hope should be a partaker of his hope. What does that mean from what Joseph has explained? Mwangi, what does that one mean? Because when I read these verses, I see a repeat and enlarge and everything, if I'm right. Verse 10, if you connect verse 10 to verse 9,
From the original context,
mm,
ox was doing the work at the same time eating.
yes,
That's fairness. So fairness with the animal. When you read verse number 9, when it ends, it says, "Doth God take care for the oxen?"
yes,
It means the animal has the right to be taken care of. So kuna fairness with the animal. So you have gone to the original verse, it's Deuteronomy 25.
mm,
And in fact, that verse of ox, never talk katikati, and it's not related to whatever we are discussing.
mm,
We are discussing about human beings.
mm,
So the question in verse number 9, that rhetorical question, it means if God has created fairness
mm,
for the animal, what about human beings? Now, when you come to verse number 10, now bring with the explanation, it means where human beings labor,
mm.
they need to get something from their labor.
Thank you very much. So in verse 10, Who is plowing?
Somehow it's separating the cow or the ox, if I'm understanding correctly, from the, let's say, the one who is guiding the owner. It's like the cow does the threshing. Where is it? I'm looking at it. Yeah, he that plows should plow in hope. So that who is plowing is the one who is planting, is the one who knows what they are doing, right? And then the one who is threshing is the one who should be given right to partake in this what is being, which was plowed, right? In that same hope, right? That's what it's saying. So, and this threshing is not plowing. When it says, "Thou shalt not muzzle the mouth of the ox that treadeth out the corn," this treading out the corn is not plowing. This is threshing. When you look what threshing means, how they did it back then to separate the grain from the husk, the cows would walk upon the grain, and by doing that, it separates the chaff from the grain. So it's actually not even, the cow is not even plowing, it's threshing. It's doing the threshing. So then it links to what he said in verse 10.
It is linked.
It's showing us what this and verse 10 are the same story.
They are
right? So this ox, which is threshing the corn, which is already ready, this is thing which they've already harvested the corn.
Yes.
This farmer has harvested the corn, and now it comes the time for threshing. Yeah. Are you seeing what's
I'm understanding what you are saying. Because you've come up with two things: threshing, treading, and threshing, and you are saying they are different.
Threshing and treading are the same.
Are the same.
And then there's plowing.
There's plowing.
Which is different from those two.
So plowing is in verse 10.
Yeah. It's in verse 10, and also threshing is in verse 10. Because it says, he that ploweth should plow in hope.
Yes.
There's a person who is plowing the ground, and when he's plowing, he's plowing with hope that it will eventually, the seed will grow, it will harvest, and all will be good. That is the hope.
Yes.
And then the second part says, and he that thresheth in the hope should be partaker of his hope.
Yes.
So they are threshing what? The results of that plowing.
The result of that plowing.
And they should be partaker of
that threshing.
Yes,
that threshing.
Threshing.
From what Brian said, there's somebody who is doing a work.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, whether it is threshing or treading or plowing, there's something they have to have done. Yeah. Then you must have a hope at the end of it. Is that true from what you're saying?
So, I don't know if what he's saying. So, verse number 9 gives us a clarity from Deuteronomy 25. Now, when verse 10 begins, it says, "All said he is all together for our sakes." And Jesus why Amamosti anatuongezea sisi our sakes. So anatujibu akisema for our sakes no doubt. So it means the parable which was given in verse number 9 is for our sakes. For us. So that parable is not about the ox. It's about our sakes. So when I come now, this is written that he that plowed. So for me, the person plowing in the parable was represented by the ox. The ox was plowing. Now the ox, a symbol of the person plowing. The ox got food when they come to plowing. So the person who is plowing in this now spiritual sense gets a pay. So I'm trying to catch up. And for me, this is all I understand. You begin reading from verse 1.
Yes.
Paul wants to deliver a message to the people. And I think what Paul will do, Paul will use parables to do that.
Yes.
So right from verse 7, all these are parables, and we need to distinguish them because they are different. So the first one is speaks about a soldier who goes to a warfare. The second one speaks about someone who plants a vineyard. And the third one speaks someone who feeds the flock. Those are three different parables, but they all have the same message. So maybe to expound a little bit on what God is saying. So when you go the first parable, he says, who goes to a war at his own charges? So he speaks of a soldier who goes to war, and you need to go to the culture of that time and realize that soldiers were funded to go to war. So Paul is asking like a rhetorical question that even a soldier will not go to war with his own expenses. Then he goes to the second one. Or who planted a vineyard and eateth not of the fruit thereof. So he now speaks of a farmer who plants a vineyard and the farmer has expectations to eat of the fruit of that vineyard. Then he goes to the third one. He speaks of someone who feeds a flock. And then, as much as you feed the flock, you expect the flock to give you what? Milk? And what? Yes, and eateth not of the milk of the flock. So all those are trying to suggest one thing. Someone who is doing something with expectations. And whatever you are doing, whether you are going to war, the people you are going to fight for, they need to fund you. Speaks of someone who is going to plant a vineyard and you expect the vineyard to give you something in return. Or to feed a flock and you expect the flock to give you something in return. So he continues the same line of thinking in the next verses. So verse 8 he tells you, these are not my sayings. It's a rhetoric. He says, say I this thing as a man? I would say no. Or says not the law of the same also? So he tells them, it's not my saying, it is the law. It is God who says, if you do something, you expect something in return. That's what the law says, according to Paul. And he continues to give the same now when you go to verse 9. So verse 9, we need to see another two about himself and Barnabas as ministers. So he's giving a parable to demonstrate that I and other ministers, we need something in return once we work for it. Because that's what he addresses in the next verses, where he says, he that ploweth should plow in hope, and he that thresheth should also thresh in hope, and he should be a partaker of this hope. So, and when you read verse 11, the last part I'm going to address, then I end. If we have sought unto spiritual things, so you know that Paul is the subject, the other ministers. They are the workers, they are the ox, they are the person who takes care of the flock. All these parables, Paul is addressing himself and other ministers, saying, if we have sought unto spiritual things, it is a great thing if we shall reap your carnal things. So Paul is saying, if we have to work for you, you need to provide for us.
So Paul is saying, we have sown unto you spiritual things. It is a great thing that we read your carnal things. What are the spiritual? You said something. What are the spiritual things that Paul is sowing? Thank you very much. So Paul is sowing the gospel of Christ. Is that true? What are the carnal things that Paul is expecting? Food. Paul is expecting material support. Senor, I want to verse 11, verse 12. If others be partakers of this power over you, if others be partakers of this power over you, and are not we rather, nevertheless, we have not used this power, but suffer all things, lest we should hinder the gospel of Christ. Verse 12. I want to ask something in verse 12. If others be partakers of this power, the word others are this power. This others means who are Paul is saying, he's speaking to this Corinthians and he's saying, if others be partakers of this power, these others and the power, these others, who are they?
Yeah, just thinking, I mean, not right. I think here Paul is saying that there are other people elsewhere who are able to provide for them what they need. So they have a room of choice to go maybe to minister to those others who are able to fund them, who are able to support them. But then they are not using that power of choice to just select those who are able to support them, but are coming where they are now administering, on where they are now supporting for the sake of the spread of the gospel of Christ. Because if they choose to use that power, then it means they will be now preaching selective. My understanding is that.
So I'm trying to connect the power verse 11. So in verse 11, Paul is saying, we are giving you something we expect. We expect the kind of things. Now, when it comes to verse 12, when Paul is saying others be partakers of this power over you. So what is this power that we are talking about? That there's others who have that power, that are the partakers of that power. So the after question mark, there's nevertheless we have used this power. So we need to understand the power that Paul is talking about there. And don't for the entire sentence. What's
just to pick up the where Sabina has that, I think the power is when he says, is it a great thing if you shall reap your carnal things? So I think the power is reaping the material things from the people. So Paul is saying there are people already who are reaping material things from them, but him as Paul, he doesn't want to demand material things from them, lest they might be offended and they stop listening to the gospel altogether. So I don't know who the others are. Yeah, I'm not sure, but it seems like it's another group of people who are reaping material things from the Church of God.
The is saying the power of it little if you are not aware of the work the others are, but there are some people else using material things like the power as the power.
they can
Huh?
have that power.
They have that power to get kind of things.
Yeah. But which Paul doesn't do, or what he calls doesn't have that power. So Paul is kind of letting the people give free.
Okay, I didn't mean it, but it's general. Me, I just meant I didn't mean that there are people who are like maybe forcefully taking it from them, but Paul doesn't want to take it forcefully. I just meant there are people who are already benefiting from them materially, but Paul won't ask of that from them. Yeah, because of the reasons he has given.
I wanted to say, these people who are partakers of the power have done the same thing as what the ox did. Right? It has worked on the field and it has a right to eat the corn. Right? And likewise for them, when you look at their context, there are people who, or we have to ask ourselves, when he's talking to them, who has benefited these people and who has a right to take something from them to eat of their material goods? It's only the government. That's the only person for entity which exists, which has that power over them. Because that government provides them security, it takes care of their roads, makes sure they have courts of law to deal with their issues, and so on and so forth. So there's no other entity which has this power over them except the Roman government.
The box is a servant.
It's a servant.
It's doing something for someone. And the God is serving them. The one should be what look at servants work servants not
So the servants, you take the servants to the power, the others.
the others.
There is one. Yes. As we know, the purpose of government is to serve the people.
Yes.
So I don't know why there's a problem with putting government there, because that's what the Roman government was there for. To serve the people, to make sure their rights are protected. And that's what it was doing. The Roman government protected Christians early on from the Jews, before then they turned and became the persecutors. So actually the Roman government was doing a very good job of taking care of citizens.
So from the discussions from verse 1 as we put it up to verse 12, Paul is comparing the work he's doing and the work the government is doing, from my understanding. And from my understanding. Then Paul is saying, after doing some work, we need to get some reward. Then there are also some people working, need to get some reward. It's not what's there. But as Sabina was saying, Paul, the reward is freely given. But to those working for the government, it has to be given. It's not true. Okay, you rest your arms.
So yeah, I want to agree with what Carl is saying.
Yes.
Will be my way of approaching the same answers. So as Carl put it clear, and that's a very important aspect we need to factor in. Paul is going to give us two classes now. Class number one, I would categorize Paul and give other gospel ministers. And class number two, I would categorize others. So you need to compare and contrast them now. And one of the comparisons I want us to see is that Paul and his gospel worker are receiving something, should receive something, some things, kind of things. And this other should also receive what? Something. Because if others give partakers, so there are two partakers. Others and Paul, something else. And the reason why they are partakers, as Carl put it, it's because they have done a work and they deserve that partaking. Are you together? Then, when you look at the verse 12, Paul will now give us a difference. That these others, they demand. But Paul is going to say, us, we will not demand because we will destroy the gospel if we demand. So you just need to go to the context of that time and ask yourself, who are these people who work and they demanded that? Because Paul is saying here, if others be partakers of this, are we not rather? And then he says, nevertheless, we have not used this power. So when Paul says we have not used this power to demand, these others have demanded it. And Paul is saying that us, we suffer all things. Paul is willing to suffer without asking. Let's say we should hinder the gospel of Christ. And she will try to reinforce this example to the next verse, verse 13, when he now gives the same example of the priesthood, that they work, and what do? They demand the offerings and the sacrifices, and the people have to give that. So you know that they are the others there is addressing about the government. They are the ones you need to give to Caesar what belongs to you.
Thank you very much. Okay, from what we have come to understand is that as we people, we have to understand this concept Paul is bringing about in this storyline. So here we have Paul working in hope of getting something. Senor, and there's other people also working somewhere in hope of getting something. Paul is giving he's sowing spiritual things. The hope he's having is one, he expects kind of things for material support. The other one is when Paul is showing spiritual things, I think he expects two things. The kind of things which is written there. The other one is okay. Paul is giving a message, gospel message. And one of the things that there's about his verse, another verse is saying that I've done my work, I've done a good race. What is waiting for me? Can't paraphrase it. A reward. Which reward?
According to that text.
According to that text, not here. According to that text.
Says the crown of God.
Salvation. So that's also a hope that Paul is putting on the other hand. When he's working and see people receiving the message, he has that hope people receive it and he comes up. Is that true? Thank you. So Paul is comparing the government, how the government works, and how the gospel is worked on the other side. Let's read Romans 13, verses 1 and 2. Let's go to Romans. So there are people working in the government, and they're working for what's the role of government? From the book of Daniel, the role of government.
Protection and security.
Protection and provision. Protection and provision. Those are the two major roles of government. So Paul is saying there are people working for the government, provide for the people. There are people expecting something. Romans chapter 13
says, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive themselves damnation.
There is something that all along I've known as Kenneth from this verse that every government is chosen of God. Is that true? Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I will say that the Roman government.
I'm just saying for me from this verse, all I've known from all governments are chosen of God. From this verse, when I would be they're all chosen of God. Is that true?
Ndo nimejibu muuliza, is that true? Me now I gave my opinion.
Okay.
I think you're wrong.
Your opinion, say.
I think that verse is talking about the Roman government.
The story about Roman government.
Yeah.
What about the government we are having nowadays?
It is people which now we can take it from there.
Yes, I think I can just be bold to say they are chosen of God to the extent of them being allowed to exist. By fact that they are allowed to be there, to me, is an acceptance from God.
Anybody else? Sophia, you are listening.
Yeah, I was looking at all the government. I'm trying to connect what Brian was teaching in the morning, the creation of the nation and everything. So I'm saying the government or the earthly government are ordained by God. But what we see, if we come to the bad government, now Satan comes and includes and uses these governments. So they are not Satans per se from the beginning.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, it's not so much about someone resisting a good or bad government. It's about the question of resisting government, concept of government. You know, governments are designed to do good, right? They might decide they might do bad things, but for us, the danger is when we say government is bad, government is when in reality government is a good thing, but it has been misused by those who are there in the power. So I think that's what is being addressed. In a way, it's like if I look at it in another way, maybe it's someone who doesn't want any government. It's regardless of whether it's a good bad government or a bad government, someone who is just resisting power above them, regardless of whether that power is good or bad.
Okay. From the studies, as I go to the study, came to understand this. Not every government is ordained of God. But the purpose of every government is ordained of God. Not every government is ordained of God. But the purpose of every government is ordained of God. We say every government wants to protect and to provide. Is that true? Good, is that true? You didn't provide and protect.
Yeah, somehow. Somehow.
So if they go to do what God ordained of them, the purpose to which God ordained of them, are they serving God's purpose? From the studies I came to understand that one is rights and fall of nations. When you fail to do the purpose, you fall. Let them give a diagram. So we are saying about the sixth kingdom and the seventh kingdom. So why is there the fall of the sixth kingdom? Why is it falling? It has failed to protect. Is that true?
Some to some extent, didn't fully do its job well.
And if you go to all the kingdoms, it has always been like that. So every government, not every government is ordained of God. But the purpose of every government is ordained of God.
I think that is contradictory.
Huh?
Kind of contradictory. What I will agree with is that God bringing government in place. There's a perfect intention there, but bringing in an imperfect government may not fully realize the intention of God. So the failure is subject to imperfect of people who are going to fight also. So I think God will ordain even somebody who is imperfect for a perfect duty. But at the end of it, the imperfect will not do it to perfection.
Okay, let me ask you, let us put it my own understanding. Who is the government? And what's the government? Huh? Okay, now so
How are the power that be obtained by God?
how has that be ordained?
How are the government obtained by God?
How has that be ordained by God?
How much is money?
How?
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 Yeah.
Okay. Um, I like Nathan Jones. That Nathan Jones explains Roman stuff. The power stuff. How they are really the Bible goes to Babylon, it says, before Babylon had a city. And then you have Nabopolassar, the great Nebuchadnezzar, then he came and the crowd not for Dagon, Nebuchadnezzar. So it was like confidence. That's how the how the crowd came in. And then Nefertari, Medo-Persian sailors came, they conquered Babylon. And that they took down that power, the power that was made on the second kingdom. Now, as we go on, but now when we come to our history in the United States, God, governments are ordained by God through the people election for them. So it's the power that is ordained, not the person. I can't say it's Trump being ordained, no. It's the power inside Trump was ordained. Through now the agreement of its election. So we should not mix the two. It's not the person, the power inside the person, but it's a tool.
Not the question. Not the question. You asked the government. Yeah, so I need to respond to that. And I think that at its core, government is a social contract. So if it exists here, we acknowledge that we need to coordinate and to thrive, survive, to thrive. So, and it is difficult because you have different interests, I have different interests, someone has different interests. So we cannot fully trust that we will harmoniously do what is fair for all of us. So we come up with a system that gives that power to that system and say, here the rule we are agreeing on before we start fighting. So that when we have conflict, we go back to the rules and say, how can we achieve fairness? So that at least we create a system that we can be subjective, and that is what a government is. So from that perspective, I see how we can say that it is of God, because God understands human nature and God will want us to thrive. And it's so difficult in a broken world to survive in chaos. Because today you want to go to another place, I want to go to another place. How will we strike a balance on that there? That's where the government comes in. So the power that government has, everyone should be subjected to it. At a pure level, like yeah, when you get that government, a full government that's doing what God intended, then everyone, God requires everyone to surrender to that government for fairness and for growth and prosperity. But now things become complicated when that government doing the opposite. That is why we refuse to go with the dogma that saying that God elected me, so you have to follow. We say that God elected you, but whatever you are doing, not what is original. So we have really tapped the power, or you have destroyed what was intended to be. So we can use other means to try and save this governmental system. That is why people don't fight and people don't fight to change how the government works, because they understand that it is so important and they need it to work the way it works for them to protect our citizens. So the power is that whole concept, and everyone acknowledging that we are supposed to surrender to that pureness form of government. If it is not working, you can fight to rectify it.
I like your answers. According to me, I want to understand what government is that how you have to surrender to. That's the government. The power in Trump, that's the government, not Trump. So if he abuses the power, then it's not ordained of God to rule that power. Because the Constitution is trying to protect and to provide. So when it doesn't protect and provide, the purpose for its power is to protect and to provide. That is what ordained of God. And that's what is in that power. Okay. I'm saying the power Trump is holding is to protect and to provide. And that is what is ordained. Akikalia ukiti anafaa angalie protection ya kila mtu na provision ya kila mtu. If he go against all of the thing, then it's not ordained to hold that power. That's why kingdom fall. When he falls, when he fails to fulfill the mandate, that kingdom falls. According to my understanding. Rest your hand. Someone raised his hand.
Yeah, so that's to say we are talking about the purpose of the government, which is to provide and to protect. So I was looking at it, the government from this angle, where we have the components of the government, where you have people, you have the structure, institutions, which are the laws. So what you are explaining is more of is the law, the legality, I would say.
The laws intent, the laws, and then protect the citizens and provide for the citizens. That's where you have the laws. Is that true? The laws divides everything equally among the citizens. But when to hold out that power, neglect and start wings, it's things in those ways, it fails in that power, according to my own understanding.
So, actually, how it sort of concludes, then I think what I'm thinking. In verse 6 and 7, it says, "For this cause pay ye tribute also, for their gods ministers attending continually on this very day. Render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute, custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor." So when we look at, I guess, the example you're giving to Trump, and if we say that Trump is not protecting us, let's say I'm in the US and for whatever reason, his laws are against me as a person. So does that give me the right to say I'm no longer going to pay tribute? I'm not going to pay taxes. I'm not going to respect Trump as a president. In fact, I'll insult him whenever I see him. I'll throw stones at him or tomatoes or whatever. Does that give us a right to do that when we say that to do whatever we want when we see that this ruler is not fulfilling their function?
Okay, that was the big question I was asking for help. I was willing to ask that question. But according to what I know, you have to respect the government, the power. It is the power which gives you to pay tax. It is not Trump who is telling you to pay tax. It's not true. It is the power in that office, not Trump, that is ordained for you to pay taxes. It's not Trump, right? From my understanding.
What is that power?
I think these verses are a bit specific about what the responsibility of the government is. And it's in verse 3 that rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. So basically, you don't need to be afraid of governments, that is the powers that be. You don't need to be afraid of them as long as you're doing that which is right. But if you're doing that which is evil, then you have a reason to be afraid of the government. So for me, this is more about law and order, the government instituting law and order. So it's what's Brian saying about A.T. Jones. Thought A.T. Jones, like when we talk about civility, when A.T. Jones talks about civility and morality and what civility is and how that really is the government's territory to make sure basically there's law and order, to make sure that the people who steal are punished, the people who break the laws of the land are punished, so that there is order in society. So for me, that's what these verses are talking about, and not about all these other things that we are introducing. So like maybe if we want to be true to these verses, that's why now Paul is saying, wherefore, you need to be subject. You need to be subject to you need to cooperate with the government as the government is trying to make sure that there is order in society. The government is trying to punish the evil in society. Therefore, pay tribute. That's how you cooperate with the government. Besides just making sure that you're doing good so that you're not afraid of the government, by supporting it, basically, of course, in terms of money, so that it's able to ensure that there's order, so that it's able to deal with the evil that is in society. And that's how this government is the representative of God.
We are Sabina. This question. Okay, we are moving ahead. Now we are in verse 6. For this cause, pay tribute also, for they are God's ministers. How are they God's ministers? There's a purpose they are given on behalf of God. There's a purpose they are holding on behalf of God. So they are there to protect and to provide on behalf of his ministers. Is that true? Come. Okay. So Paul is saying the ruling power of human government is entrusted to humans by God for the welfare. So if there's anything that is they hinder the development of human being, they fail to they fall. The other thing that is expected of us as Christians is to pay to support governments, because they are handling upon God in providing and protection. So if we become so there's something that I want to trace kidogo before time elapses. Let's go to the book of Genesis. Genesis chapter 4. Let's go to Genesis chapter 4. We want to trace something. Genesis chapter 4 talks about the story of Cain and Abel. Is that true? Let's go to verse 11. Let's just start from verse. Let's start from verse 8. Somebody to read.
Then Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. And when the Lord said unto Cain, where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not, am I my brother's keeper? And he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood high unto me from the ground. And now art thou cast from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth give unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be to the earth. And Kate said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out of this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, and unless any finding him to kill him.
Okay, that's at that point. Let's go again from verse 9. And the Lord said unto Cain, where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my brother's keeper? Is there a problem in that verse? Then what can we understand from that verse? You have God on one side and Cain on the other side. Yeah. Verse 9. You have Cain on one side and Abel on God on the other side. And the Lord said unto Cain, where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? What is in the mind of God when he's asking this question? What's in the mind of God?
God knows what has happened,
Uh,
and He's coming to us to give him an opportunity to understand or acknowledge what he has done or the situation, right? Because he's not asking him where's your brother without knowing where he is. Because the verse afterwards tells us that he knows what happened. So if you ask me what is in God's mind,
they're literally reading all that verse.
yeah, he's giving Cain an opportunity to acknowledge what has happened and to speak. Because when Cain asks, am I my brother's keeper? Actually, the answer is yes, but Cain denied that in his mind, or he rejected it. That's why he doesn't see there's a problem when he answers and he says, am I my brother's?
Okay, you say yes.
Yeah.
So Cain should know.
Yes.
So in the mind of God, Cain should know where Abel is.
Yeah.
But, so should know everything about Abel. Settle.
Mm-hmm.
What are these things about Abel you should know?
Just in this case, his whereabouts. Where is he? Or how? That's what it asks literally. Where is your brother?
Whereabouts? Settle. What else?
That's all that is asking.
So in the mind of God, Cain should know where Abel is. But the problem is he has done something wrong. So he's hiding from the problem that he has done. He's not acknowledging the problem that he has been. So he's asking God, should I be taking care of my brother? Should I be concerned about his welfare? What kind of question that Abel is asking God. But in the mind of God, you should be taking care of the welfare of his brother. Is that true? Then he fails to do. So he's given his cast to bring that. Let us. And thou art thou a cast from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto. Okay. Let's go to verse 13. And King said unto the Lord, my punishment is great than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. What's the problem that now Cain is faced with? Cain is now is look out for somebody this one. He's been driven out of the face of the earth, and from the face from thy face a fugitive, and shall be a fugitive. Who is a fugitive? Cain is now homeless, isn't it? Cain is now homeless. A vagabond is somebody who is wandering, does not have any, doesn't have a home. Thank you. And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. Somebody who is prone to is like lacks potential. Is that true? From then coming lacks protection. There's no verse here. And now art thou cast from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield after thee as strength. What can we call that? Can I say that there will be lack of food or some kinds of that? The ground shall not henceforth yield for him something. How can we call that? No, verse 12. Verse 12. This is a curse came to Cain. When thou tillest the ground, it shall henceforth yield unto thee has strength. So there's somehow lack of food. In somebody, I'm looking for one in somebody. I want in somebody to somebody like that. That's what also I'm looking for. It is somebody. You have it. I love you. Thank you. Let's go to verse 15. And the Lord said unto him, therefore, whoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. Verse 16. You know, Cain is having this problem, all these plus many others, many others. It's now having it's lacking protection and provision. It's lacking. And those are the main issues that the government is supposed to be providing. Is that true? Verse. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch, and he builded a city, and called the name of the city after her name, after the name of the son Enoch. So there's a city called Enoch. My question to you: why is Cain building this city? Huh?
I find a place to live.
Finding a place to dwell.
Yeah.
Then another one. So is solving this problem. The other one.
And also it says he's going to name the city. So maybe I say getting identity. Maybe he lost the identity.
So Cain is all. Somebody is a wonder does not have an identity, isn't it? So Cain is building the other one. The other one. Okay, from that, if you go ahead, let's read some prophets ahead. Yeah. And unto Enoch was born Iran, and Iran begat Mehujael and. Okay, let's go to verse 20. And Allah Jaban, he was the father of such to dwell in tents, and such as have cattle. So Cain is building a city to restore his identity, a place of stay, believe, security. He lost security. He lost security. And the other thing he lost is relationship. We lost his relation with what is restoring here in this verse. And Cain is having a lineage. A lineage. So the thing is here at hand is that Cain was cast. These are the curses of Cain. These are the curses of Cain on this other side. Then Cain is building a city to restore his. Cain is building a city to restore himself against the curses. My question is this thing wrong Cain is doing? Is it wrong? Good. Is it wrong? Cain is looking for protection and is looking for provision. That's one thing. The things that he lost, the other side, is looking for them by himself. Is it true? Is it wrong to look for those things? So Cain is doing something right. Thank you very much. So it's doing everything it's okay. But the problem is coming in verse 25. Verse 23. One of his descendants is saying, and Lamech said unto his wives, we have that yet started. He has wives, not wife. And Lamech said unto his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my name, and a young man to my heart. He has also killed somebody. So, if Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. What does that mean? What does that mean?
The vengeance for Lamech is more intense.
More intense. What about the curses? Those are the curses for him.
Yeah. If the vengeance for Cain were these curses, then for Lamech is more intense. The same curses and perhaps more. The punishment should be bigger and more intense.
Okay, thank you. Time to not on the side. So up there, you really see how things have been going on. He's building a city, and that city is to restore himself, identity, security, relationship, and all these things. He's restoring by himself. But there's a problem that he's leaving out. He never restore everything with God. That's the problem. It is going on here. And if you read verse 5, it will talk, chapter 5, it will all give you about the generations of Adam after a given level. Then if you read verses 6, the curses that have been here have been multiplied, until in verse 6, there is something happening in verse 6. Let's go to read verse 2. Chapter 6, verse 2. That the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives, all women, of all which they chose. I think you understand that the sons of God are the generation of Seth, and the daughters of men are the generation of Cain. Is that true? Then in verse 3, God is saying something. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. 120 years. Let me just leave it there. 120 years. So there's a city here, that vengeance is multiplied. Then in between, here comes a flood. After flood, what happens again? From the book of Genesis, what happens again? A repetition of everything that is here. Another city is built here. Which city is that? Babel. What was the reason for building Babel? What are the reasons for building Babel? Everything that is here. And in history, it has been always happening just like that. When it fail, they grow. Another city is built, another kingdom is built, and they fall and they fail. I like the study because we also explained more about the second kingdom. Because of time, I beg to stop there. If there's a question, we just do with Q&A.
Only God, thank you for privilege to meet. For your us to another week. For your care for us, your love for us. Thank you for the studies we have had. Ask that you may guide us to it. Also, pray for the remainder of our sessions. Continue to be with us in Jesus' name.